Story 1 of 6. FIFA allows Afghan refugee women's team to compete officially despite Taliban ban. FIFA allows Afghan refugee women's team to compete officially despite Taliban ban. Here's what every outlet agrees on. FIFA approved a regulation change on the 29th of April, 2026 allowing Afghan Women United to compete as Afghanistan's official national team without Taliban approval. Afghan Women United was formed after the Taliban returned to power in 2021 and banned women's sports, forcing most players, including 25 under contract pre-2021, to flee, primarily to Australia. The team's players are spread across multiple countries including Australia, the Middle East, Europe, Albania, Portugal, the UK, and the US. The team will return to action in June 2026 with a two-match series in New Zealand against the Cook Islands, though they will miss the 2027 Women's World Cup in Brazil. Khalida Popal is the former captain and founder of Afghan Women United, who stated the team is a symbol of resistance for Afghan women under Taliban rule. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian states the Taliban ban was imposed in 2021, while ABC mentions the ban has been in place since the Taliban returned to power in 2021, no contradiction, but SBS does not specify a timeline beyond 5-year battle. The Guardian specifies the Taliban-controlled Afghanistan Football Federation will not recognize a women's football team, while ABC states the ban is on women and girls more broadly, including education and work. The Guardian mentions the team was denied visas for the UAE tournament in 2025, while ABC refers to it as the friendly series last year without specifying the UAE denial. This story was covered by ABC News, The Guardian, and SBS News. Story 2 of 6. Australia's rising income support demand driven by health crises, especially mental illness. Australia's rising income support demand driven by health crises, especially mental illness. Here's what every outlet agrees on. More than 8 million Australians now receive some form of income support, up 2 million from a decade ago. Mental ill health accounts for about 1/3, 30%, of claims across Australia's major income support schemes. Australia's income support system includes 11 separate schemes, spanning employer-provided sick leave, workers' compensation, social security, superannuation, and life insurance. Employers remain the biggest contributor, with paid sick leave supporting around 7.5 million Australians, typically for short periods of about 3 weeks. Life insurers contribute $8.3 billion, 11% of total income support spending, and support about 55,000 Australians unable to work. But not all outlets told the same story. ABC states that mental ill health accounts for about 1/3 of claims, while Newscomau specifies it accounts for 30% of claims, but both sources agree on the percentage. ABC mentions that life insurers say earlier, better coordinated support is needed while people are still working, but Newscomau does not explicitly mention this as a key demand from insurers. Newscomau states that youth allowance records the highest share of mental health-related claims at 55%, but ABC does not provide this specific breakdown for youth allowance. This story was covered by ABC News and news.com.au. Story 3 of 6. Singapore introduces caning for male school bullies as last resort punishment. Singapore introduces caning for male school bullies as last resort punishment. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Male students aged 9 to 12 and above in Singapore can face up to 3 strokes of the cane for bullying, including cyberbullying, under new guidelines. Caning will only be used as a last resort after other measures fail, with approval required from the school principal and administered by authorized teachers. Female students will face punishments such as detention, suspension, or grade adjustments instead of caning, as Singapore's Criminal Procedure Code prohibits caning for women. The World Health Organization, WHO, has stated that corporal punishment carries multiple risks of harm and has no benefits, citing overwhelming scientific evidence. Singapore's Education Minister Desmond Lee discussed the new measures in Parliament on May 6, 2026, following a year-long review of bullying incidents. But not all outlets told the same story. The Guardian states the new guidelines were discussed in Parliament on May 6, 2026, while ABC mentions the discussion occurred on May 6 but notes the measures were introduced in April 2026 without specifying a date for the parliamentary discussion. This story was covered by ABC News and The Guardian. Story 4 of 6. US pauses Strait of Hormuz operation amid Iran negotiations and rising tensions. US pauses Strait of Hormuz operation amid Iran negotiations and rising tensions. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Donald Trump announced pausing Project Freedom, US effort to guide vessels out of the Strait of Hormuz, on the 6th of May, 2026 to finalize a deal with Iran, while keeping the blockade of Iranian ports in place. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that the military objectives of Operation Epic Fury have concluded and the offensive stage of the war with Iran is over. Trump cited tremendous military success against Iran, progress toward a complete and final agreement with Iran, and requests from Pakistan and other countries as reasons for the pause. The UAE reported intercepting 15 Iranian missiles and 4 drones on the 5th of May, 2026, and again shot down missiles drones on the 6th of May, 2026. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met with China's top diplomat Wang Yi in Beijing on the 6th of May, 2026, marking his first trip to China since the war began. But not all outlets told the same story. The US claims it sank 6 Iranian boats on the 5th of May, 2026, but Iran's state TV reported only 2 civilian cargo boats were hit, killing 5 civilians. The US frames its operation in the Strait of Hormuz as defensive and aimed at rescuing stranded mariners, while Iran claims the US started the war and closure of the strait is a result of US actions. The US says the ceasefire is still holding, but Trump declined to specify what would constitute a violation, stating only that Iran knows what not to do. This story was covered by The Guardian and SBS News. Story 5 of 6. Self-described journalist Landon Germanotta-Mills granted bail after alleged child abuse material possession. Self-described journalist Landon Germanotta-Mills granted bail after alleged child abuse material possession. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Landon Germanotta-Mills was granted bail on strict conditions: daily police reporting, home detention, passport surrender, no internet-capable device, by a Supreme Court judge on May 5, 2026. Landon Germanotta-Mills faces 14 charges, including multiple counts of possessing and accessing child abuse material and disseminating possessing bestiality material. Landon Germanotta-Mills was arrested in November 2025 by NSW police in Waterloo after an investigation into an international group sharing child abuse material with ritualistic and satanic themes. Landon Germanotta-Mills allegedly told police he accessed 6,880 child abuse files and 127 child abuse material files, 91 bestiality files via Telegram chats, claiming it was for investigative journalism. Landon Germanotta-Mills allegedly stated to police, "It was on my devices to build a bigger case up. I should have sent it straight away to you guys and reported it straight away instead of trying to make my case." But not all outlets told the same story. ABC reports Landon Germanotta-Mills allegedly accessed 6,880 files, while Newscomer reports 217 files were found on his phones at the time of arrest. ABC states prosecutors opposed bail citing multiple risks, while Newscomer does not explicitly mention prosecutors' opposition to bail. This story was covered by ABC News and news.com.au. Story 6 of 6. Melbourne teacher Kim Ramchen pleads guilty to stabbing school principal Aaron Sykes. Melbourne teacher Kim Ramchen pleads guilty to stabbing school principal Aaron Sykes. Here's what every outlet agrees on. Kim Ramchen, 37, pleaded guilty to intentionally causing injury and assault charges on May 6, 2026, in the Dandenong Magistrates Court. The attack occurred on December 2, 2025, at Keysborough Secondary College in Melbourne's southeast. Principal Aaron Sykes suffered cuts to his jaw, cheek, lip, arm, and a 2 cm laceration to his neck, and has not returned to work since the attack. Ramchen was arrested after staff restrained him during the attack, which involved 2 separate knife confrontations in Sykes' office. Ramchen's defense lawyer, Amelia Beach, stated he had no prior history of violence and was diagnosed with autism and depression with anxious distress after the incident. But not all outlets told the same story. ABC states Ramchen's sentence is scheduled for May 11, 2026, while Newscomer reports it was handed down on May 6, 2026, likely a reporting error. ABC mentions Ramchen was holding the knife above his head during the first confrontation, while Newscomer does not specify this detail. ABC states Ramchen fled through the school after the first attack, while Newscomer does not mention this explicitly. This story was covered by ABC News and news.com.au.